Studios, along with James Westling on social at James Westling. I am Ari Temkin on social at Ari Sports. Big 12 Radio brought to you by the Full-Time Fan by Modelo. And last night, one of our games of the week for Big 12 Radio on TuneIn, BYU in Arizona. And Arizona was up 11 with about 62 seconds left and somehow only managed to win by 3. A furious late rally by BYU falls just short, and Arizona improves to 21 and 0. James 8 and 0 in the Big 12. Meanwhile, BYU falls to 3 losses, but all 3 against top 15 teams, including, of course, the number 1 team in the nation last night in Arizona in Provo. So, not much to be disappointed about for BYU other than had a chance late. But Arizona is just, man, even when they're not playing at their best, they still figure out ways to win. You know, they're really good defensively. They can, play in the half court, but they can also get up and down the floor and play in transition. And I think we saw that in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona controlled this thing from the opening tip. They had an 18-5 run late in the first half. They led by 13 at halftime, and they stretched their lead to as many as 19 points in the second half. With 11 minutes to go, Arizona led by 19. So BYU's furious rally that came up just short was impressive, but big picture, Arizona dominated this basketball game. And the Rob Wright shot in the lane where his defender loses his balance, falls down. It looks like it's going to be a clean look for what would have given BYU the lead, and Braden Burries comes out of nowhere to wipe it away. That was a next level chase down block from the opposite side of the floor to seal it for Arizona. And Burries is becoming a star in this league. Like, he had 29 points last night. He was 13 of 14 from the foul line. He had 3 steals. He had 2 blocks. He had that game-saving rejection down the stretch. He's big, he's physical, and he's only getting better. Like, he's a guy the first month of the season wasn't even averaging double-figure scoring. And Tommy Lloyd was saying that, he never changed. Like, he never got down. He never pouted. He just continued to plug away, and they knew he would blow up at some point. And then Jaden Bradley with 26 on 10 of 15 shooting. He had 4 straight jumpers in the second half when they expanded their lead. And A.J. DeBonsa going 6 for 24 from the floor also stood out to me because he could get wherever he wanted on the court, but then he was met with resistance, really for the first time all season, with bigger, stronger, more physical guys, and he struggled. He struggled last night.
Here's what Braden Berries said about that chase down block he had late.
Honestly, I was just thinking, like, my teammates have been having my back this whole year. Like, that was the least I can do is help them in that position right there. So I just wanted to help them miss the shot and just try to get the rebound, and I seen that he was open. I just went for the flop.
I mean, he's been, I think, in a sea of surprising emergences. He's been maybe the most surprising.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of really good freshmen in this league, like guys like Killian Torrey at Iowa State. Um, there's a lot of freshmen in the country that are really good players. When you talk about the Wagner kid at Illinois, who dropped 40-some over the weekend, Kingston Flemings has been phenomenal at Houston with 42. But then, like, the underrated freshmen in this league, I would put the Petty kid at Texas Tech in that conversation with Torrey at Iowa State. And Burries is kind of the second freshman. Like, yeah, he's a top 10, top 15 recruit from most recruiting services, but he was still rated a couple of spots behind Koa Pete. And I think he's their go-to guy, him and Jaden Bradley. And in the NCAA tournament, the teams that make it far are the teams that have exceptional guard play. And those two combining for 55 points, the 5th time this season that 2 Arizona Wildcats had 20 or more in the same game, only the 5th. And you look at their 21-0 record and how many times they've beaten opponents by 20 or more points, that speaks to their balance. And then the other thing that stood out with the physicality, and it reminds me of the way Kansas used to win games on the road, is Arizona shot 32 free throws, and BYU only attempted 19 in their own house. Like, that to me is they were the team that set the tone. They were the aggressor, and it's a big reason why they led for 32 minutes last night on the road.
Here's what Kevin Young said after this loss for BYU and just the third loss for BYU this season against the top 15 team.
We're right there with every team in the country. I thought that before the game. I think it just as much as I did before the game as I do now. So, I have a lot of respect for Tommy. I mean, I don't know a lot of the college coaches. He's a guy I've gotten to know a little bit. We have a mutual friend that I worked with the Suns that knew him, worked at Gonzaga together. So, knew him through that a little bit. He's a great coach, and runs a great program, understands what wins at the college level. I mean, they're really unique, right? In modern basketball, they shot 12 threes and scored 86 points. You know what I mean? So they've got the style, I think, figured out pretty well. And clearly it's hard for teams across the country to play against, but, we didn't play good. Rob and AJ went. If you told me before the game that Rob and AJ were going to go 9 of 40 and we were going to lose to the number one team in the country by 3 points, and I'm not here for moral victories. I'm pissed. I wish that they would have played better. We would have won the game comfortably. So it's just all about improvement, man. That's the bottom line. You got to learn from your mistakes. And I just said to the players in the conference play, and I think you see it across the country. In conference play, the margins are very small. You can't make mistakes repeatedly. And so when you do it, we got ourselves into a hole. Now give ourselves credit because we did a great job in the second half of digging out of it. But that's a long-winded way of saying I feel good about our, stacking up with, any team in this country.
I mean, to have your two best players go 9 for 40 and have a chance to win it down the stretch, I totally hear what he's saying, and that's the glass half full. I would love to know with Kevin Young how he would define Arizona's style because he said they've got the style figured out. Well, stylistically, they are the polar opposite of BYU. So I wonder if there's anything he can take away from what Arizona did offensively that maybe he can carry over to the Cougars offense because they're dynamic, but it's very much finesse, and they were challenged last night physically. This was a March level test in January, and one team passed it and the other did not. Arizona was the team that passed it. In the NCAA tournament, if DeBonsa and Rob Wright and a couple of those big three are off, they're going to have to find ways to win. And so I'll be interested to see what BYU looks like a couple of weeks from now and if they've learned from this.
The latest odds to be the number one overall pick have Darren Peterson, the odds-on favorite at minus 160, which basically is about 60% likely. They have AJ at number two, highest odds to be the number one overall pick at plus 160. And then Boozer has the third best odds to be the first overall pick at plus 750. So at this point, it's pretty much a two-horse race between AJ and Darren Peterson. And yeah, I'd imagine some of the rest of the season will be weighed. But it also feels like in some ways teams have already made up their minds.
Which after last night's game, I can see why. I mean, I still the bottom line is to me, DeBonsa and Peterson are both slam dunk picks, and both are going to be NBA superstars. When you look at what VJ Edgecomb's done in his rookie season, he's the front runner for Rookie of the Year, and the way these guys play, they're both going to be really, really good players. With that said, Darren Peterson is a walking bucket, and DeBonsa, I felt like last night had to really work to get his, and he got most of it at the foul line. He went 6 for 24 from the floor, which tells me that that's more than just an off night. That's not letting the game come to you when you're taking 24 shots. He went 1 for 8 from three. I thought a couple of them were bad shots. They weren't within the BYU offense. And for the first time really all season, DeBonsa was visibly frustrated. Like he was working his way to that mid-range spot where he loves, where he was slicing to the goal, and then he was met with resistance. And he wasn't able to play through that. He was begging for some calls, and it led to, I wouldn't say poor defense, but for how good he is defensively, I didn't think he was at his best on that end of the floor because he was tired. And Darren Peterson just does it so much more efficiently
Mm.
that, and we'll find out when KU plays Arizona. For me, I could see why Peterson's the front runner now.
Yeah, and I think you said it there. Like we're going to see DeBonsa and Peterson play and match up against each other this weekend, but the true test will be when Peterson and Kansas go up against an Arizona team that made DeBonsa look like that. that made
Exactly.
Richie Saunders look like that.
Totally. Exactly. And DeBonsa and Peterson playing against each other, I don't think will be a great litmus test because both of those guys are finesse NBA type players. I want to see how these guys respond against the Houstons and the Arizonas and these big physical teams that don't foul and they just punch you time and time again, play after play after play,
Mm.
because they'll have to fight through that in the NCAA tournament to make a deep run and to truly be stars. You look at all the teams that win national championships, like they have really talented, but also really physical, mentally tough guards. And last year's national championship game between Florida and Houston was a prime example of that.
That's James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Cannot wait for Saturday's matchup between the presumptive top two picks in the upcoming NBA draft. An interesting deep dive that Evan Mia did from Evan Miyakawa on international recruiting and comparatively what international recruiting looks like versus high school freshmen, and how much more effective high school freshmen appear to be. Plus, want to also take a look at some of the lineup numbers that we've been following and tracking from evanmia.com to take a look at some of the best five-man lineup in the Big 12. But when you look overall, James, in terms of the draft, like looking at the latest mock drafts right now, most mocks have three of the top five picks from Big 12 players, including Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonsa, and Kingston Flemings, and four of the top 15 picks when you include Koa Pete in there. And I mean, Koa may end up ascending into the top 10, but every mock draft that I've seen includes some combination of those four plus Yesufu, Burries, Christian Anderson, Chris Sinak, and then some even include Cam Carr and Joshua Jefferson. So, I mean, you're thinking about 10 of the 30 picks could be Big 12 players.
And I would throw JT Toppin in the ring. I think JT Toppin could be a late first round NBA draft pick. This upcoming NBA draft is going to be flooded, absolutely flooded with Big 12 players. Tunde Yesufu is a guy who I think once he gets to the combine and they see just how much of a freak he is athletically, that's only going to help his draft stock. The only thing hurting him right now is that Baylor is struggling. They're 1-6 in Big 12 play. And then Burries is another guy. I'm shocked that Burries wasn't in the top 10 when I look at how athletic he is, how well he's shooting the basketball. Maybe the only hesitation is his 3-point percentage, but that's getting better on a weekly basis. So, man, the league's going to be so well represented in the NBA draft. Polar opposite from last year when the top pick was Yegor Dimon, I believe, after Edgecombe, who went around number 11 and is having a really nice rookie season, by the way. I think all these guys are going to be stars right away in the league.
All right, more on this with Chancellor Johnson, Big 12 analyst and content creator. Let's talk hoops with him and the draft. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.